Peace and Black Power, family. It's been a minute. Today, what we are going to talk about and assess is the dangers of 5G radiation and cell phone radiation in general, along with some things that we need to be cognizant and aware of in regards to the AI push in artificial intelligence. So, I'm going to get right into this. I'm not going to take up your time. So, basically, when we talk about, or when you hear someone talk about radiation that's involved with a cell phone or cell phone radiation, what they're really speaking about is the connections that cell phones or any wireless device, especially pretty much all wireless devices now, due to the fact that they are rely on or dependent on the internet connection. So small microwave frequencies must be emitted or sent off from the cell phone towers along with the cell phone to keep the connection so that you will be able to receive a text message, continue to explore the internet, FaceTime, all of the other luxuries of your phone. So many people, if they were to actually diligently and thoroughly read through the terms and agreements when they initially get their phones, they would see that in that terms and agreements, it will tell you to keep the phone away from your body, especially when women are pregnant. It'll tell you use the wireless speaker capability as much as possible, use your headphones as much as possible, and not to keep the phone on your head and by your face and things of that nature. Many of you know that if you are on your phone long enough and you're holding the phone on your ear long enough, that phone will eventually get hot and it'll be basically literally radiation right on your face, your shoulder, and your neck area. So this is something that is going to be very important for us as we move into a new realm where technology is prevalent and everywhere, because now it's to a point where we've moved so fast, or society has become so reliant and so tech heavy, that there's not really many study cases you can do on individuals who haven't been exposed to the cell phone radiation and the radiation from wireless devices, including your internet routers, so on and so forth. And we'll talk about some solutions, of course, at the end of the video and ways to fight against the radiation. But this is something that's very serious and prevalent, and it's something that we need to really think about and consider, especially when we're allowing young children to have phones, when we're spending time on our phones, women are pregnant on their phones, we set our phones on our sexual reproductive organs, so on and so forth. So this is something that we have to really assess and be aware of when we're using this technology, when we're allowing kids to use the technology, and not just the radiation, but there's also a book called Glow Children, where the author breaks down the dopamine secretion that children receive, which is similar in comparison to a crackhead when they're playing games or they get to the next level on a video game, or when they're on a technological device, and so on and so forth. So basically that stimulation is the same to a crackhead would get at the peak of their high. Based on children, the study was based on total neurological reactions with children with tablets, wireless devices, video games, computers, so on and so forth. So that's even another thing to consider and think about when we're talking about this technology, along with what I'm going to be getting into a lot more deeper, which is the 5G, which is coming up next. So basically, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, you can just look at that as an evolution of a cell phone. Anybody who's, within the age of 25, a little bit above that and under, has probably dealt with different generations of phones. You remember when you got your phone and it was a flip phone and all you could receive is a message. And if you needed to receive a picture message, it would take so long and so on and so forth, and you have to wait, and there was a drag. So of course, as cell phones evolved, you got to the point where you could FaceTime, you could instant message, you got to the point where you could access internet, you could get applications, you could do pretty much everything through your phone now. So basically what 5G is going to be pushed for is overall convenience, like they push everything else to the people that they want to consume products. So when we're looking at this, we have to understand, why are we getting 5G? Simply for phones to run faster and more efficiently. But the issue with that is these small microwaves that are being sent off or emitted for these phones to connect to the towers, they have to get sent off constantly because they're not long microwaves, they're small, so they have to be constantly sent out. And that's going to be the exact runoff or the result of the 5G. Is going to be something where now not only will we be dealing with the radiation, but it'll have to be increased because the smaller waves are trying to connect to these 5G towers. And many 5G towers have been put up, and you can just simply do your research. You could do a simple Google search and you can see a lot of the cities and areas in America that have decided to go with 5G and 5G towers. And you will see a lot of testimonials from parents and communities and think groups that are going against the 5G because they're actually studying and doing some research on the negative effects and the causes behind these things. The documentary slips my head if I can think of it, or slips my mind if I can think of it. I'll leave it in the description, because there's a documentary that is very deep on women who were exposed directly to new cell phone towers for 5 to 6 years of exposure were dealing with infertility, they were dealing with cancer, they were dealing with just random sicknesses out of nowhere. So this cell phone radiation is very serious when we're talking about the exposure that you can receive, especially if you're literally close to like a main power tower. You can be getting serious levels of radiation emitted on you, which is what can cause cancer, which is what your melatonin does when you sleep. It fights against those radioactive cells which are produced when your body is renourished and regenerating, and then you have those runoff cells, so that melatonin while you're asleep goes through and gets rid of any radioactive cells because they can become cancerous. So your body is built and designed to deal with and combat radiation, especially if you're a melanated individual, if we're talking about specifically sun and UV radiation on your skin and your melanocytes. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But I'm saying that to say that radiation is dangerous cells are dangerous when they become radioactive. So you do not want to be exposed to high levels of radiation is the key. One of the big things that this does as well is throws off the whole ecological balance or the ecological homeostasis, where we have birds and bees and different creatures and insects who live on the planet who are totally reliant on the electromagnetic field as a navigational tool when they migrate, when they move, when they relocate. Now, there have been studies that have shown where you can put wireless cell phones by a beehive, and you can let all of the bees be exposed to their hives initially. They're familiar with them and they know them. And then you put the phones there, which are, of course, emitting the radiation, and no bees will go back to the hive in which have the phones that are emitting the radiation. So they can sense this, they can feel this. So this throws off birds and their overall GPS and geographical trafficking or traveling system, and it throws off the electromagnetic field because now you're sending off what we call artificial radiation into the environment. Therefore, it's throwing off the electromagnetic essence or resonance that the earth naturally produces, which causes it to become more difficult for the insects and the other creatures who rely on this to travel and relocate. So that's something else that you have to deal with. And then, of course, continual radiation on fruit and vegetation. It will get very difficult to have non-radiated food and vegetation if states and if America goes for the push to allow every state, every city to have 5G cell towers. This is what we'll start to be at risk of, is the inability to even have remotely, if not non-radiated food at all, because the 5G cell towers are going to be more reliant on those smaller microwave transmissions, which is going to have to be more consistent than even the microwave transmissions for the 4G. So it's basically saying that the radiation and the connection is going to have to work harder due to the smaller microwave waves. Okay, so you have tree bark deterioration that can result from this, soil depletion and deterioration. So this is something that we have to really evaluate and work to be aware of, especially in the age that we're moving into, because in no means am I telling you to never use technology or totally not use technology. Technology is a form of communication and reaching out and actually being able to connect with each other internationally, globally. So I'm not saying to not use technology, but we have to be aware to how long we're exposing ourselves to the technology and our children as well. And we have to be aware of certain things that are going on with different technological pushes and being able to say, I don't want this in my community, or if they do install these towers into my community, I have some ways to fight against this. So let's continue. Another thing that the 5G towers and the 5G capability will be able to do is to deactivate your senses and to have you feeling in a sense of delusion or feeling nauseous and things of that nature, because of course the government and anybody who has an army base will weaponize science. They'll weaponize scientific data or facts and find ways to take scientific revolutions and make it a weapon. So therefore, with the 5G, this will allow them to not only be able to see through you when we're talking about the enhancement of advanced camera systems, but they will also be able to control you in a sense that they can send off a frequency or a high enough microwave frequency at the same time where it can throw off your mental state or your psyche, and it can make you somewhat delusional or dizzy, and it will be able to throw you off. Okay, so this is something that can be used, weaponized, when we talk about silent weapons for a quiet war. So these are things that they can set up and do to where you're feeling out of it and you don't even know why, and it's simply unseen, unheard radioactive frequencies that are being enhanced around you. On top of the fact that we have a television, many of us are still microwaving our food, which we should not do. You can use the oven or the stove as a quick solution to that. We are still so reliant on these devices that we need to be aware of how much intake we're receiving, where we're receiving it from, and how do we fight and combat against it. So that's something to really think about and be aware of when we're talking about this. It will be pushed forward as the Internet of Things. It will be what allows your toaster to be connected to your garage, to be connected to your front door, to be connected to your tablet, and so on and so forth. This 5G is going to allow the cloud to expand into something bigger than it has already become, so where you can have all of your devices connected, which if people are aware and on point, they know about the RFID chips, which will be a great incentive for people to get connected to it. The automatic cars. So now we're talking about people who have already been struggling to drive Uber will more than likely lose out on employment. And then you have those small cases. So far, I think I've seen two that I can recall where individuals have been killed by a self-driving car. So now we have to think, when we use our third eye, we look at, well, how could this be used as a weapon? Well, we have this 5G, we have the push of the Internet of Things, more automation, everything's becoming more autonomous, and we have autonomous vehicles. Now, who's in control of the autonomy of those vehicles? Because if a vehicle can have a malfunction, or it can have an issue, or it can be programmed or coded in a certain way, those autonomous vehicles, the same way they could drive you to wherever you want to go in your destination, they could drive you into a tree. They could drive you off a cliff. They could drive into each other and cause all types of chaos. So this is something that we have to be aware of also. And the fact that no matter what we've seen, there's always factors for human error, which is going to get into the latter part of what I'm talking about and breaking down as well. But you can't fully trust car automation when we've already seen cases of automatic cars that have killed humans. Okay, so who goes to jail for that one? Okay, the 5G regulation, like all cell phone radiation regulation in America, is highly lenient and lax because there's so much money in the cell phone industry. Most people are updating and upgrading their cell phones yearly or whenever the company is putting out the next version. So the regulations on radiation are going to be lenient because, like anything else in America, the dollar trumps everything. So the fact that the cell phone companies are $1 billion industry, it does not matter that these radiation levels are far too high for children and human beings at the rates in which we use them, especially when we have them on our bodies, on our faces, so on and so forth. So the regulation on this is very soft, it's very lax, it's pushed back because we understand that they're going to make money in the back end. At the end of the day, it's not going to be something that they have to be concerned about. Many of the top tech individuals understand that. I'm not having my kids at a tech school at all. They go to schools with no technology at all. The guy who did the iPads and who invented those, his kids didn't even use them. I've heard that they didn't use them at all, or they had limited use. So many individuals within this tech world have been able to understand the dangers of the technology and what it can potentially do, and they understand that my child is either going to not use it at all, or they're going to use it on a limited basis. So that's something that we always have to be aware of, is if you are an individual who's within this field, who's making money off of this, why is it that you feel uncomfortable with your kids having this or having exposure to the technology at high rates? Because, like I spoke about that book, Glow Children, it not only goes into the neurological reactions, but then it goes into the game addiction. And anybody who's grew up a gamer or still a gamer to this day, we understand how it's a gaming addiction. And everybody has their vice, to each his own, but we understand how serious this is. And this is something that you have to consider and be cognizant of, especially when raising children in a tech world where pretty much the technology can raise your child from their political views to their sexual views to their educational views to their societal views. Technology, if you allow it, will mold your child and mold even adults into whatever they're getting exposed to, whatever the exposure is persuading them to feel, or however the exposure is moving their mind. So we have to be very, very diligent when we're saying, what are we doing on this technology? What are the babies doing? Is this something that is promoting us in a positive image? Is this something that is academic, educational? Is this something that is giving them some further insight? Is this research based, or is this just pure leisure and entertainment? And it's not to say that we shouldn't have leisure and entertainment time, but it is to say it must be monitored and looked at in chunks and bits, where you are doing whatever you feel is comfortable for your child as a parent, or we're doing what's comfortable for us with the youth around us that we feel, so we can monitor what's going on. Because now I'm gonna get into the next phase or the next stage, which is really something that's biblical and or spiritual, which is the artificial intelligence, which is going to be relying on the 5G as well. So at this point, when we really look at this deeply, the solutions at the end of this is going to be very important, because they're going to push this 5G. This 5G is going to go because the artificial intelligence is going to be so reliant on the 5G to actually perform how they need it to. So in Saudi Arabia, there's a artificial intelligence female. I think her name is Sophia, and she's actually been considered a citizen. And I'm pretty sure that she has been connected with the blockchain, and she's working on developing her own cryptocurrency. And as I said, she's been granted citizenship in an area in Saudi Arabia where a lot of women are unable to even drive and gain a license. Okay, artificial intelligence is a citizen there. So a lot of this artificial intelligence is connected to the quantum computing and quantum bits, the ability to process at a high and effective speed, because the artificial intelligence is essentially human or man trying to become or play God, because the artificial intelligence is now the man's child. Okay. And there are many movies, I think even one of the most recent, I think like Alien Covenant, and I think even Prometheus, they kind of show and give little glimpses of man having the superiority over the technology as its child or its creation, although the technology, through the work that the man has put into it, as I'm alluding to the quantum bits and the quantum computing, so that the technology can have, or the artificial intelligence can have, the capacity of what? A human brain. We're talking about movies like Transcendence, where they want to upload your consciousness into an artificial intelligence. Therefore, you can still exist. These things are being talked about all over. You know, it's not something that hasn't been brought up or recently been spoken of. So when we're looking at this, the 5G is relying on that, the AI, and we're looking at the AI is going to be what transcends a human, transcends human capacity and ability. We're going to also see humans who have lost limbs and who have the money and can go to the sophisticated surgeons and doctors who will start to get different robotic arms, more sophisticated robotic arms, because now we have all the way full AI intelligence, full artificial intelligence, where they can walk, they can talk, they can react. Another good movie is slipping my mind, but it's going to come to me that goes into the AI and how men will look at this as their child, but it will come back to haunt them. You know, AI will be able to start to create codes that are more complex than human codes, which will no longer be able to be hacked by a human mind. AI, of course, definitely has the capacity to perform more precise human surgeries. Okay? So, we're looking at breakthroughs with the AI surpassing human capability within one of the most relied on fields in America, the surgical field. Okay, so not only are we talking about individuals who can potentially start to lose jobs, but we're also talking about people who may be given certain artificial intelligence to use that haven't been properly trained to use it on you for a surgical procedure. Because there are different machines that are being used now where you have to control it like an analog, as if you were holding a controller or a video game. And many of these hospitals have been accused of allowing their surgeons to go through a very lax training where they're supposed to get 250 plus hours of training and they're getting maybe 15 to 25 hours of training and going and using this machinery to perform surgery on humans. Okay. These are the types of things that we're looking at. So not only loss of jobs, but then also potential higher rates of human error using the machinery, which could move into a further reliance on saying, well, now we should just move all the way to the artificial intelligence because it's most accurate. So you start to see slowly but surely the artificial intelligence now is in control of the humans. The humans are more reliant on the artificial intelligence in which it's created, which can exceed the human brain capacity due to how hard humans are working to make sure that the artificial intelligence can do so. And now that can come back and will come back to haunt us. So we have an understanding that it's only a few humans who can even code as sophisticated and as complex as artificial intelligence that is being developed and created at this point in time right now. So when we look at this, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. The artificial intelligence with the inability to get hacked can create codes and create systems and can create a grip on what's going on in the tech world or with technology in general or the world and how it's moving through code, through the inability of humans to say we're against this, or that's beyond your capacity, or we haven't given you the right to do this, so on and so forth. Now there's no way for you to hack into the codes. There's no way for you to get into that. So it goes back to automation. If they can hack into codes that people are making for the automation of cars, and the tech and the AI can hack into that and change up the codes. So this is what we're getting into, and that's why, like I mentioned, I'm not saying we should be totally against tech and move from tech, because tech is going to be a way to really survive into the new age. But there are ways that we can start to protect ourselves from the radiation, and we should just be aware of things that are coming down the cusp, because the whole AI movement, the artificial intelligence movement, is what is going to push and transition into the transhumanism movement, where people literally will be in a totally automated non-human body but have a human soul or a human mind, so on and so forth. They'll upload your consciousness. They'll find ways to sustain and keep your brain alive on an artificial body. So these are things that they're developing and that they're working on. So we have to look at it and analyze it and ask ourselves, is this something that we have sat down and thought about and spoken to the babies about, or done a thorough analysis about, so that we can understand how we feel and what we're going to do in regards to this radiation and the 5G, in regards to transhumanism, in regards to the artificial intelligence and what it can do and what the capacity or the potential of the AI is. Because What the AI can really do is eliminate the need for humans. If anybody is privy or familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, if anybody has done any research on depopulation, you will thoroughly understand that the powers that should not be are planning and are succeeding in a depopulation program, which is basically through, of course, the radiation that we're speaking on in the 5G, through the food in your environment, and through your mental and your psyche, and what you actually view and download and what you see. So the depopulation program is right on schedule. Artificial intelligence will allow for hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of humans to be eliminated from different work roles, from different, just automation alone is doing that now. But when we have full on AI, there'll be no need for somebody at Walmart to watch and make sure nobody steals anything, because the AI will be connected to the same code that the machines are connected to, and it will be able to it'll be able to scan or notice any unscanned item. It'll be able to notice all of that. The AI will be connected to the actual scale to know that whichever items this person had is not scaling up right. So you won't need humans for certain roles, because there'll be a robot or artificial intelligence that will do this, that you charge up, that doesn't want Christmas pay, doesn't want to break, doesn't need to smoke, isn't going to talk back, because it's been programmed and coded to do what it needs to do. So excuse me. So with that being said, we do need to promote our children and even young adults and adults to understand simple basic coding, to understand computer graphics, just certain simple things, web design, so that we can start to move towards the new millennium and say, we do have individuals who can code. We do have individuals who can do programming. We do have individuals who can do website designs, and so on and so forth. Because this is a field in which is going to move at a very accelerated rate fast. So we should be promoting these things, and we should be trying to do research and develop ways ourselves to enhance our ability to be tech savvy and know what's going on in a technologically moving and reliant society. But with that being said, for the conclusion of this video, ways in which we can fight against the radiation is very simple. First thing you can do is drink lots of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is basically photosynthesis or plant blood. It will help to cleanse your system. It will help to be that internal deodorant and get toxins and chemicals from out of your system, but it also will renourish and replenish and refurbish your body, okay? It will also assist in increasing your magnesium levels, which will then transfer into iron once it goes into your hemoglobin or your bloodstream. So chlorophyll, 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 chlorophyll. I do liquid chlorophyll in this Now brand, and I get it at natural groceries. Chlorophyll is essential for anybody, especially that is melanated, because chlorophyll is closely correlated with melanin, meaning that melanin and chlorophyll, which we can describe as the colors green and the colors black and or the many shades of brown, can take UV sun rays, in which would be harmful to anything that did not have coloration or pigmentation, aka something that is albino and or white, and they transfer those potentially harmful rays into a positive reaction. So with the chlorophyll, the plants photosynthesize, the carbon in which that we breathe allows them to photosynthesize, or that we exhale allows them to photosynthesize. They produce the oxygen in which we breathe, and that is the reaction that is relying on the UV rays from the sun. Now the melanin, what the melanocytes and the melanin within our skin does is it transfers those UV rays into vitamin D3, which is good for overall bodily health and sustainability, but also vitamin C activation, along with a whole other host of things. But I'm not going to go all the way into that. I'll do a video on melanin and go real deep into all of that, the neuromelanin chambers, the melanin in the melanocytes, the melanin in fruits and vegetables and life and carbon and all of that. We'll go on that another time. Another important thing to do is to get shungite crystals. You can get bracelets. You can get EMF protection bracelets like the one that I have. You can get shungite necklaces, and that's SHUNGITE. Okay, and these are healing crystals and stones that can help neutralize and get rid of radiation that is being emitted. Okay, you can get diodes for your cell phones and for your wireless devices as well. Okay, and you can put diodes on your cell phones, which will neutralize that radiation. It's not going to throw off your signal or make you unable to talk on your phone. It's simply going to neutralize the microwaves that are being emitted. So diodes, DIODES. Okay, and if anybody is familiar with me and what I do and the products that I sell, I actually sell diodes. So if you're watching this and you're interested in getting a diode and you're from Omaha, Nebraska, you can just simply reach out to me on my YBI Academy page and just instant message me, and I can get that to you. So the last thing that we can do is something that, even if you're saying, oh, well, I don't believe with any of this, radiation isn't harmful, so on and so forth, or I'm not going to go pay and get the shungite or get the chlorophyll or get the diodes. Certain things that you can do is start to monitor your screen time and your children's screen time. You can start to go to an hour a day, 2 hours a day, or 2 hours off a day. So making sure I'm spending 2 hours of my day just off of technology. Whatever it is that you can implement in your life and your child's life or the young individuals around you to push them and help them become more disciplined in their intake of technology and entertainment, and also to understand what radiation means and how this access exposure to the technology is harmful. And being exposed to too much radiation can really be negative on your cells. Of course, we know radiation causes cancer. Okay, so we have to be cognizant of that. Women, men, women, keep your phones off your breast. Keep your phones off your sexual reproductive organs. Men and women, use your phone on speaker. Use your headphones on your phone. Connect your phone to the Bluetooth on the car when you talk. Stop wearing the Bluetooth earpiece. That's just radiation right on your head, right on your ear, because it's wireless. So it has to connect to its tower and a signal the same way the phone got to connect to a tower and a signal for the Bluetooth to even work on the phone and be connected. They have to be sending off those microwaves. So we have to slow down on the having a phone on our face, being on the phone for 5 hours, all of those things. We gotta cut back on that. Gotta start putting that phone on speaker. If we're gonna be talking for a long time, use the headphones. That's what I do. You know, at least you don't have it right on your face. You can hold it off. You can sit it down away from you, so on and so forth. Keep your phone out your pocket and off your body as much as possible. That's another solution. That's another tip. A lot of these tips are things that you can implement daily. When you go to sleep at night, these are the last 2 tips. When you go to sleep at night, put your phone on airplane mode. Your alarm will still work if you need to wake up and get somewhere that next morning. Airplane mode. The last, unplug your wireless router at night. Unplug your Wi-Fi router at night. That's unnecessary radiation being emitted throughout the night. You don't need that, because that tower is connecting all night. Period, point blank, is going to be connecting, because it's saying somebody might jump on this and need to use this internet. Somebody might need to surf on this web. So you turn your Wi-Fi router off at night. Another thing that you could do is go all wired. You know, you can just say, only time I'm turning this Wi-Fi on is when I'm wired into it. Okay, you could do that. Use the yellow wire. The name of the wire is slipping my mind. So these are simple solutions that we can implement to lower our radiation exposure. To start to say, I'm going to take control over how much I'm exposed to the radiation. I'm going to get a diode. I'm going to get the shungite crystals. I'm going to get on the chlorophyll. Getting outside in the sun is cold now for anybody in the Midwest or the East Coast, but once it warms up, when the spring hits, staying in the sun, staying charged up outside. If your financial situation allows you to, go somewhere where it's sunny for a couple months or a couple weeks before it gets super cold in the Midwest and the East Coast. But these are all solutions that you can use and implement, if not for yourself, please, for the children, because we know the immune systems in the body has not been fully developed, so they are more at risk to this radiation exposure. It's something that we need to continue to research and look into, but it's also many things that we can do to protect ourselves based on the fact that the 5G is relying on an industry and an intelligence that is on the cusp of really controlling how we move and how the society is going to go. So we need to be aware of these things. We need to get into the technology, understand coding, understand how to use these different technological advancements to our benefit if there is opportunity to do so. But when using it, we need to be limiting the time that the children are on it. And of course, we need to be using those preventative methods that I spoke about in those solutions. So stay aware of what's going on around you. 5G is very dangerous. If you see an article or anything about it, read it, stay up on it so you can know what may be going on in your city or your state and where you're from. And always, stay blessed. And I'll see you guys again. All right.